Well, there are very few conventions right now, and if there are conventions, they might be a little bit dangerous right now, and so no one's around to have the bar fights about what is genre. So let's talk about it here. It's I Should Be Writing Season 18, Episode 6.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
Hi there. Welcome to I Should Be Writing. This is a podcast for wannabe fiction writers, and I'm your host, Mer Lafferty. I've been doing this podcast for 18 years, and right now I do it live on Twitch twice a week, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and then my awesome producer takes it, cleans it up a little bit, and then we put it in a podcast feed. And I talk about writing and what we come up against and how to get over some things. Or if I don't know how to get over it, I at least tell you you're not alone in feeling it. But yeah, I'm Mer, and I don't do my credentials very often, but I did start this podcast in 2005 when I had not sold anything, no stories. I did a little bit of RPG work, that's what I had done, but no just plain fiction. And now I'm working on my sixth book. I guess technically seventh because I did have one small press out. My sixth book, I have written a Star Wars novelization. I have written a award-nominated book. And so I don't know why you'd want to, but if you did want to see the career track from nothing to whatever I am now, it's all chronicled in the podcast. I usually start by talking about what I've been working on. I have been feeling the ditch digger feeling for a while this week. Ditch Diggers is the show that's on hiatus now, but it's a show I do with my friend Matt where we talk about writing as if it's a blue-collar job because some of us need to write to make money and we can't afford writer's block. But yesterday I discovered that writer's block can manifest even if you're putting words down. And the way it manifests sometimes is when your main character doesn't know what to do, or doesn't have a plan, or would much rather lie around on their bed whining than, say, be active. I did hit my word count yesterday, but I will be surprised if even half of the words get into the book. But sometimes you have to work through that. So I got my word count done yesterday. I don't know what my words ended up today. I know I got some. I'm thinking up, my goal is like 800 some. I'm usually trying to, if I'm in a good place to hit 800, I usually do more. But 800 is the minimum. And I didn't check before, but I did get writing done, so that's good. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I have no good news, not yet. Do have good news in email form. So I'm going to check that because I'm very excited. I love it when people email me with good news. If you have any good news in the chat, please let me know. We like to celebrate good news, and we like to remind people that rejections are good news because they show you're being a working writer. Also, what you're telling people is that you're tough. We don't talk about that. What you're doing when you say I got rejected is you're saying I took a punch. Check me out. And I'm going to send another story out tomorrow. Look how tough I am. That's what rejections say about you. Okay. So, anyway, we do have Team Rejection going on in 2022. We have 9 so far this year. Shauna has good news, been doing sprints with Daniel Beer, and I've managed to do 3 times my weekly word count goal. Accountability buddies are so good. They're awesome. Right now, I'm entering an early morning, not as early as some people I know. I know Tish hasn't been around in a while, but Tish does like 5 a.m. writing sprints over on YouTube. Sorry, tangent there. But I've been doing like early morning writing sprints with some friends of mine, and it's helping. Actually, we don't do sprints. We just all kind of get together and say we're writing. But no one checks. But yes, accountability buddies are great. I am fully in... I'm approving of accountability buddies. They help you get going. They help you stay accountable. So, congrats, Shauna and Daniel, working together. I got a less than 1 hour rejection from the dark this week. Problem is now I have to wait on another market to open up for this story. Well, congratulations on the rejection. Rejection numbers go up. You are tough. You're awesome. Congratulations, Christian. Well done. And we're going to hit that yay button again. 10. That's 10. Well done, all. I'll still leave it open in the chat if you have good news to share, but I do want to share an email good news. Would like to tell everybody, if you're listening to this in the podcast later and you want to email me and tell me your good news, I'll put it on the next live show. So, unfortunately... Oh, wait, no? Haha, yay, okay. Sorry, I worried I would not be able to pronounce the name, but the name signed is not the name that's in the email, so I can do this one. Bernadette writes, I'm happy to report I managed to keep writing sprints up and finished last year with 160,000 words written and edited. I even got my first piece of fan art. This year I'm aiming for 200,000 words, so wish me luck. Happy New Year. Good luck, Bernadette. Yay button for you. That's amazing. I find it really hard to track my yearly word count goals. I don't know why. I think it's because sometimes I don't know how to count edits, and then if I don't start at the beginning, then I can't, it's hard to keep up. Do y'all know if there's any way to look into Scrivener and see, like, is there a log of how many words you wrote? Because I know that you can track your daily word count on your project targets, but I don't know if that's logged anywhere, especially because you can write in other things that aren't logged. I don't know. But Scrivener does have abilities that I am not fully aware of. So, Kids Are Asleep uses a spreadsheet. Why am I not surprised? Sorry. Kids Are Asleep and we've discussed spreadsheets offline, so that's why I'm laughing. Yes, that's true. Christiane does put out a yearly Google Sheet. That's pretty cool. I just need to keep track. Really, I could probably do it. It's still new enough in the year. It's January 20th. Premi is here to talk about genres. So, is there any more good news? I would be delighted to share it, and if not, we will get to our main meat and potatoes, because we're downstairs where the meat and carrots are being cooked. I don't track my stats because I don't want to be sad. Well, I understand. I mean, I don't look at my reviews because I don't want to be sad. But at least you have control over your stats. But yeah, I get that. Getting that shock of if you've been tracking and then you stop doing the thing that you're tracking for a little while. This is awful. Anybody who's recent, like in the past 2 years, joined my Patreon, you should have gotten a video thank you from me, because I use the tool Bonjoro. I connect Bonjoro to Patreon. This is not a commercial. I'm just saying what tools I use. And so every time I get a new patron, Bonjoro says, hey, do you want to send this person a personalized email? And usually when they do that, it's early in the morning and I'm in my pajamas. So I think, no, I don't want to send someone an email in my pajamas. And then, like, by the time I'm ready to be on a camera, I'm thinking about streaming and not doing the Bonjoro thing. And then every once in a while I feel bad about myself that I've let them pile up. So I was pretty sure I was like 2 or 3 months behind. And I opened up Bonjoro and I saw that there were people I needed to thank in the past 2-3 months. And then I scrolled down and there was somebody there from 8 months ago. And I'm thinking, has it really been almost enough time to gestate a baby that I have not responded to Bonjoro requests? Not requests, but notifications. If it has been... See, I would love to think there's like a bug in the program that just forgot that person. But if not, I apologize. You should hear from me soon if you have not heard from me and you're like within the past, 9 months, a new Patreon supporter. Because that's embarrassing. So I was getting a couple of them done today while I was waiting for my dog at the vet. And I can do more after this. No, actually, after this, we're doing a co-writing stream on in the Discord. So anybody who's a Patreon supporter can go to the Discord and hang out with me while I write. You don't need to have your camera or audio on, but I'll probably have mine. It's that accountability thing again. Okay, so no more good news. Bernadette's the only good news in the email. Well done. Congratulations. We'll get moving now. So, the genre thing. I was delighted to talk to Nicole Glover last week because her books are like alternate history because they're the Underground Railroad people, and but it's also magic, and it's also a murder mystery to figure out who killed the person, probably with magic, after the Civil War. And it just made me think, it's like, I've been trying to get into psychological thrillers. I think I want to write one, but I don't know if I've read enough, and I'm trying to learn what sort of tricks they use. And so in doing so, I search Audible and I search Amazon for psychological thrillers. Shop your local bookstore if you can. I'm just saying. But a lot of times they'll put other genres in. They'll put like Stephen King into psychological thrillers. And what I think of psychological thrillers doesn't really... I haven't read a whole lot of King written in the past decade or so. So maybe he's moved into but I don't hear any of his books described as psychological thrillers. In fact, a lot of his stuff seems to be described as horror the whole way through, even though he's got several stories that are not horror, but just kind of weird. I mean, The Body is not supernatural at all. But it makes me think of the different genres and the different rules we have. Because first, when you say genre, a lot of people just think this is a bad hack type story. It's a mystery, or it's a science fiction or horror or thriller, or not like middle-aged college professor midlife crisis Pulitzer Prize winning novel type story. It's something that's not important. But what really does, I joke. I don't joke much. It's not much of an exaggeration. But I think one of the things people don't like when they say bad things about genre is exactly, K. Kimmy, it is formulaic. There are rules. If you break the rules, then you don't fall into that genre. For example, there's science fiction and fantasy, which is usually in the same realm of bookstores or people, when they say they write this kind of thing, they usually say both. I've written both, but they kind of do come from different places. This is where the bar fights happen, and bar fights. It'd be neat to see a bar fight at a convention, don't you think? Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rather punchy today. I don't know why. So for me, science fiction uses technology or encounters something that we would discover that sort of could really happen. Back in the 50s, it's the superpowers given by radiation because we learn what radiation does to cells, which led to one of my favorite comic strips back in the 90s where someone's like, Peter Parker got bitten by a radioactive spider, and 3 days later he sickened and died. But, you know, a while back, radiation, we thought cool things could come from radiation because we take the thing and learn the science and all that. Some people get really fussy with the idea of, well, FTL is impossible, so FTL is fantasy. And there's like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. There's a bunch of unfun people out there who insist that their science fiction be absolutely 100% plausible. Which doesn't feel speculative to me. And also, what if you want to write an adventure on another planet? Who cares? But I see it as we're going to focus on a technology and the world around us. With fantasy, something magical needs to be involved. And if not done by the people, it needs to be done. There's something magical involved with, I'm going beyond like sorcery, I'm saying, but something magical involving like a magical creature or something. But one thing about science fiction that my mentor told me was, if you can remove the science fiction and the story's pretty much the same, it's not science fiction. You're just like, if the setting is space, it's got to be space. There's got to be a reason for it to be space. Space has to be involved. 0G or vacuum or cold or, you know, something. It can't just be like, okay, that's a starship, but it's also kind of a hotel, isn't it? And this could happen in a hotel just fine without the starship. So, you know, if you're looking at your genre, can you lift out the thing that makes it genre and have it still be a story? Really not genre. But everybody disagrees when it comes to science fiction and fantasy. The Star Wars, Star Trek thing is, I still don't think it's been resolved. We see spaceships in Star Wars, we think science fiction. But we see the Force and we think, well, that's magic. And they do have faster than light, but then, you know, so does Star Trek. But Star Trek really focuses on the technology that the Federation relies on and the Klingons and everybody. That if you took the science fiction out, you'd have some people asphyxiating in space in very primary color uniforms. So definitely you have that. When it gets into other genres, alternate history, like Nicole Glover's books, where, you know, you take it's I actually don't know a lot about it. It seems like you take a major point in the past. Correct me if I'm wrong here, chat, because I could be. But if you take a major thing that happened in the past and you change something, Hitler surviving or being killed early are two obvious tropes, probably well overused. And in doing that, you write the alternate history of what happens in that situation. Mysteries, Agatha Christie wrote a bunch of rules. I think that what they called themselves, there's like a club that they called themselves. Agatha Christie and a bunch of other writers of the time kind of got together and made the mystery rules. And mystery, I think, has more rules than science fiction or fantasy. Because science fiction and fantasy don't tell you what must happen in the plot. Science fiction and fantasy, you can get by on a setting. But with a mystery, you have to have certain things in the plot. You have to have, let's see, you've got to have a murder, obviously, a murder mystery, but you have to have somebody at least as intelligent as your sleuth to have done it. You can't have the murderer be the sleuth. Agatha Christie broke that at least once, maybe twice. But you're the grand master of a genre. You're allowed to write the rules and turn around and break them. But it can't be handed to them. It can't be Deus Ex Machina of the solution. Can't be given by somebody else's figuring it out and telling the sleuth. The sleuth has to figure it out. The sleuth can be anybody, and mysteries have gone off in many different directions of many different species of sleuth. We've got animal sleuths, we got teachers, we got bakers. That's not really the part of it that's, yeah. I think people have tried to massage things and make things different, and I think that's where psychological thrillers came from, because what I'm learning about psychological thrillers is that in most books, we feed people the information in a mostly chronological way, and we don't really hold stuff back. And from what I'm learning from the thrillers that I'm reading, stuff has to be held back, or else there's nothing to reveal later on. And this is different than a mystery of somebody in this room is a murderer. It's a murderer. It's more of telling people that you see the baby. I can't think of the thing. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but I did read one to where if you visually saw one of the characters, and you visually saw another one of the characters, you would know that they're the same person. But it's not revealed to us in text. The author holds that back until the right revelation. So yeah, I'm still trying to learn the psychological thriller rules. But for mystery, there's a lot of and the mystery has to be solved. You can't just say, well, we're going to try to figure something out. I'll grow as a person, and then, oh well. Similarly, romance. Romance is very clear that it has to be a happily ever after or happy for now. And those are wide-ranging things. Obviously, a modern-day romance is not going to have a princess happily ever after ending, but it's more of the people are in love and happy at the end of the book. Will they remain that way? We don't know. But that's what happy for now means. And there are a lot of literary books that get classified as great romances because there's romance in it, but they don't follow those rules. Romeo and Juliet, not a romance. I just don't understand. It's like, it's horny teenagers. And there's definitely not a happily ever after or happy for now. Everyone's dead. It's not a romance. And, Romeo's in love with someone else at the beginning, and he sees Juliet and falls in love with her, which is kind of how I remember teenage years being. So, who's to say that after, if they'd lived, he would have gone after somebody else next week? You don't know, because they're teenagers. So I feel a little strongly about Romeo and Juliet. Not a romance. But going into the Shakespeare rules, it's like, ends in death, it's tragedy, ends in a wedding, it's comedy. I'm going to go to chat real quick. Cat cozies and dog cozies can be addictive of a sort, I bet. I haven't gotten into the cat cozies and dog cozies, but I have enjoyed a number of Christmas themed mysteries. I love that genre. You throw Christmas in it, and I'll make that a genre itself. You throw in all the mysteries and all the romances and all the science fictions about Christmas, put it in one anthology. I will buy it. I'll probably be the only one, but I'll buy it. Summer interviewed the author of the Chet and Bernie series. I don't know that one, Summer. Excuse me. I ended the only romantic novel I wrote with the lead couple on a distant moon with the atmosphere running out. But they were deeply in love and finally in each other's arms. Does that count as a happy for now? I think it does. I think it does count as that's happy for now. That's definition happy for now. We're gonna die, but the romance got completed. Daniel Beer says it's tragedy, not romance. I'm assuming you're going with Romeo and Juliet, that reference, and I agree. But a lot of people call it like it's one of the great romances. It's not. It's about horny teenagers. Come on. Romance is a confusing state of superposition for me. HEA makes me cringe in terror and look away. A quantum paradox romance thriller. You need to write that, Summer. Get on that. I'm pondering a series of cozy set in a Lovecraftian universe where Hastur is the detective. Check your public domain stuff, but that sounds really interesting, Under Pope. Look up Spencer Quinn. Chet the Dog has his own Twitter even. 9 books so far. Okay. It feels like chat's turning into people pitching the weirdest cross-genre stuff they can, and other people going, oh, I'd buy that. Yeah. I think one of the problems people have with some genre is they're not character focused. In fact, if they are character focused, you might turn people off. There are many, many, many books or TV shows about sleuths who never, ever change. Midsummer Murders, Barnaby and his family almost never change. And someone told me this. Last time I mentioned this, someone did point out that I stopped right when the character started to change. But I got several books into the Dresden series and just got tired of seeing the same guy in the same situation deal with different stuff. I think it's because he's Harry Dresden's in kind of a crappy situation, and therefore you never see him improve his situation, which is kind of depressing. His situation improves in certain ways, but it always ups the ante with the problems he then faces. Yeah. Didn't Harry Dresden eventually become superpowered, almost godlike in abilities? I don't know. I stopped reading it. I guess that happened too late. I really enjoyed the short-lived TV series. I talked with Butcher about it long ago. I was a driver for the day for a book event in Phoenix. Was I out there then? Because I remember one of the times we recorded with me out there, he was there. So yeah, there are limitations in genre, but that is where we find the comfort and the what we want to know what to expect. You know, we want to, when you say you have a romance or a fantasy or a mystery or psychological thriller, you go in with expectations. When you say you have a literary novel, you don't know what you're going to get. And that whether that you want that or not, that's all you. But a genre is pretty much a marketing word, and it's a tag. Genres were the first hashtags. There's my wisdom for the day. So when you talk about your genre, you're telling people what to expect. And then you get into subgenres. So you know what to expect from grimdark fantasy or solar punk or hope punk, any of the punks really. But the thing about the rules is that people immediately want to subvert them. But, you know, there's always going to be somebody out there who's edgy and wants you really to read their romance that ends with one of the people killing and eating the other one. And they're edgy and different and dark. And that's not a romance. When I was in grad school, we had an author come, a guest lecturer come, and she didn't really get along with us. Or we didn't get along with her. We did not get along. None of us did. Somebody in my group was wanting to write cozies, but he wanted to write cozies with a band as the main characters and the setting, like someone who's in a band, who plays in a bar, that is their world, and they want to solve mysteries from there. And being that they're in a band and in a bar, they're going to swear more than people usually do in cozies. And he says he wanted to invent his own genre called an effin' cozy. Only he said the whole word. I don't swear on this podcast. I swear a lot every other place in my life, but not on this podcast. And she would not hear it at all. She's like, there's no such thing as an effing cozy. He's like, well, I'm going to write one. She's like, no, you can't do that. And it got a little heated. But one thing that's neat is that when you have those rules in place, then they help. It's almost like fanfic. I'm kind of going off book here. Fanfic is fun to write, and it's wonderful for new writers because there's some part of it you don't have to worry about. It's like training wheels. It's the fact that you don't need to worry about the characters because someone already wrote them, or the magic system, or the setting, or the place. Places and setting are the same thing. Let's work on that. And so you can focus your creativity on one specific thing. In genre, of course, it's much larger. I'm not saying it's super easy to write a genre book. Trust me, I've written many bad ones. It's more of when you know that there are certain rules you need to follow that lets you be creative in all the other mapped out parts of your story. I think I'm going to end here for the podcast itself because we've been going for a while. And you've been listening to I Should Be Writing. You can find out more about me at merverse.com, and you can see the show live Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/MightyMer. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/MightyMer, and what do we say it was? Ko-fi? I don't know. It says buy me a coffee, but then people pronounce it differently, so I get confused. ko-fi.com/MightyMer, also where you can support me. Or you could just subscribe via Twitch or tell a friend. That's all you need to do. I do have books. They are available at most bookstores, or you can order them from your local book dealer. If you like urban fantasy, I've got that. If you like space murder mystery, I've got that. And if you like novelizations of movies, I've got one of those too. So check me out. I'm very Googleable. But I'll be back on Tuesday, and this will probably run next Thursday. I'm trying to get into that pattern of posting the podcast a week after it runs on the same day. So, check me out. If you have any questions, mightymer@gmail.com. If you want to send me good news, if you want to just say hi, go for it. And until then, you should be writing. I Should Be Writing is available to you under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Theme music by John Anelio. Art by Numbers Ninja. Production by Summer Brooks. And hosting by Libsyn. Find all of this information and more at merverse.com. And remember, we can't do this without you. Thanks for your support.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who. Yeah, I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.